So, hello and welcome to the 40th Tarot On session of our nightly consecutive video sessions dealing with tarot, Kabbalah, Western esoteric, mysticism, spirituality, divination, and any subject that we may find of interest. So, hello to Evelyn, who's joining us in the live group. If you're watching this as a recording, hello to you as well. We're going to be covering some practical methods this evening, and it was Michael Rapino who gave me the idea for this earlier on, so thank you to Michael. If anyone has any suggestions or ideas for future tarot-ons, we are still currently in the 4th or 5th week of our lockdown, so we still have plenty of time to cover things of interest to anyone. Yeah, we've done 40 of these now between the lot of us, so we are 40 days in. I started these fairly early on in the whole proceedings because I sort of knew that we were going to be a while in this from my tarot readings of December for the year ahead readings. Which I mentioned in one of the first few videos that we did. I see this whole thing lasting until July, August at the outer edge of it before we tip into the next phase of it. So what we're going to do, Thoth, definitely, we can do a lot on Thoth. I'd love to do some more work on Thoth and also on Thelema generally to understand where Crowley was working from in terms of his own philosophy and the way that he dealt with things. So let's try and make it more of a group effort as well as we go along. I'm more than happy to take your suggestions in the group as we go along. So today I'm going to be working from two books, Tarosophy and Tarot Flip, which is the best tarot book ever written, because it wasn't written by anyone other than real tarot readers. So Talia and I collated it, but nonetheless, it was written in conjunction with hundreds of readers in order to boil things down to one particular keyword. So the reason I've got both books is because I talk about the mechanisms behind Tarot Flip in Tarosophy. So Tarosophy has some more of the background stuff as to how Tarot Flip came about, whereas Tarot Flip is just a booklet of keywords, but it's the one I use personally for doing readings for myself. And that's sort of what we're going to talk about, is the difference. Oh, that's great, Emma. I'm glad to hear that you also refer to it. What we're going to cover is I'm going to do two readings this evening, and I'm going to do one entirely reasoned and the other entirely intuitive. And I'm going to hopefully teach you how to do an intuitive reading and what I think the difference is between a reasoned reading, and these are the terms I use, and an intuitive reading. Now, my feeling is that you can only intuit something that you know something about. There's a fantastic book. I'll come on to that in a second, but I'm sure you've had a similar example as me, where you've driven your car to the garage to get it repaired or something, and you drive it in, you get out the car, and certainly the garage in Keswick, the guy used to come out and say, faulty left flange sprocket or something like that. You can see my knowledge of cars is as extensive as my knowledge of Asian cuisine. He'd say, oh, it's the left flange sprocket, and you sort of think, well, how does he know that? And he'd just have a feeling. The engine, maybe the sound of the wheels as it came over the gravel. It would be the age and type of the car, that quite often those cars always have that sort of problem at a particular time. It could be the weather conditions, all sorts of things. But he would have to be a mechanic to intuit that, because the difference is intuition is when you come to an accurate conclusion without being able to reason why. It's just a feeling, it's just an intuition. Um, I think widgets is something from Asian cuisine as well. I think you fry them perhaps. But when you intuit something, it is about something that you know, not something that you have no idea. When you intuit something about which you have no knowledge, that is called guessing. And guessing is sort of okay in certain circumstances if you've got no other means of making a decision or an interpretation of what's being presented to you. But I would not want a car mechanic to intuit about my brain surgery or my heart surgery. I would not want a heart surgeon necessarily to try and intuit what is wrong with my car and try and fix it. So that intuition is really a unreasoned process that gets an accurate result. It's a unconscious process or a fast process or a different process than reasoning. Okay, so we're going to use that as an example. And just in terms of intuition, there is a great book by Sherwin B. Newland. There's two books actually. I read the first one was How We Die, and the second one is called How We Live. And the guy is a surgeon, and he's written the first book called How We Die was about death, and it was really a real actual description of how we die, how people die, what happens, and so on. Very sobering, very powerful book. I believe it was in the New York Times bestseller list or something. But then a few years later, he did a follow-up called How We Live, which was about the body's abilities to sort of repair itself, and surgeons to be able to heal people, to fix things. But it starts with a story, a real story of him performing a surgery. And it's an emergency surgery that he gets called in for. And it's the sort of thing that I guess happens every hour of every day in every hospital. But it was so powerfully described. And also within that surgery, because what had happened was there was a sort of aneurysm in a strange place. But you only find that out at the sort of end. It was something in the splenic artery, I think. And there are diagrams of how the stomach sort of folds up and all sorts of other things. But he only realized that towards the end of this sort of 7-8 hour sort of epic surgery. And you really get the sense of this highly functional knowledge, incredible memory, incredible skill of all of the people involved in this woman's operation. But then there are moments of just sheer intuition that are, if you pardon the pun, threaded through it like stitches. And so he goes from intuition to action to reasoned activity throughout the whole operation. And it's a remarkable piece of writing as to how the brain functions during that sort of, under that sort of stress. Now, luckily enough, in tarot, we're rarely facing someone who is having a sort of splenic aneurysm, but we do have to interpret the cards that are down in front of us. And we can do that in one of two ways. We can either do it based on knowledge, well, we can guess. If we know nothing about it, we can base it on knowledge, or we can intuit it. Also, I do believe in our fourth world, you'll notice we're going up all four worlds in the Tree of Life again, that we can be inspired. Now, inspiration to me is something very different. That is our oracular voice that just comes through. And in fact, the word inspire means to almost breathe, inspire, breathe the words of the gods. The original meaning to be inspired was to be inspired from outside of oneself and breathe through, speak through something from beyond. So Inspiration to me is that higher level, intuition sits below it, knowledge sits below that, and practical grunt guesswork sits below that. And they all have the they run in parallel. Inspiration is divine up at the top in Atziluth. Then intuition is Bria on the Tree of Life. Knowledge is our Yetzirah, our swords level, because it matches the four suits, of course. And then guesswork, or just figuring it out mechanically, is our Asiya. And they run simultaneously, as Diane's saying about the neural networking. These things happen to be realized just in that moment. Now, what we're going to cover is I'm going to give a demonstration of a purely rules-driven, knowledge-based reading. If someone has a question, just a nice, simple question, nothing nothing too dramatically life-changing, that I can do a quick reading for, only as a demonstration. This is not necessarily a free reading. It might be not very useful to you, in the sense of I'm going to explain more about the reading method than the actual interpretation itself, but it may be of use to you. So first person with a real question that can put that into the group, that would be very useful. I'm going to use the Waite-Smith Tarot for this. We could use any particular tarot deck for this example. I do apologise if a number of people... Right, so Evelyn is saying, what should I work on next? So I'll take that as the example question for this. So someone has asked, what should I work on next? Now, in this mechanical method, and I'd like to take right, so we've had a load of questions, so I'll have to take the first two because I'm going to do two examples. What should I work on next, and how to get through the lockdown will be my first two questions. So the first one, I'm going to do knowledge-based, just to show how a reasoned-based reading works. And this is how I would do a self-reading as well, because I'm going to use, let me just sort this out, Tarot Flip for this. Might come back to Tarosophy. So I'm going to use this little booklet here. So what should I work on next? Now, I'm going to do a 3-card reading, and it's basically, I'm going to follow a very simple method that is in Tarosophy with ill-advised, safest option, and best advised. Okay, so the 3 cards are ill-advised, best advice, and the safest middle option in the middle. Okay, so, and this is for Evelyn. So ill-advised is this one. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to blank my mind entirely, because this is a knowledge-based thing. I was originally going to say something about that card because it immediately pops up ideas, but instead I'm going to just literally go into the book and look up the 3 of Wands. So this is what you are ill-advised to do, and it is the keyword for this, which was generated from hundreds of readers and tens of thousands of real readings. The keyword is building. Okay, so building. And what I've done in this, what we did was put what you say. So yes, activating ambition. So the activating ambition comes from Papus, who had a very nice set of rules for these cards. And we have those in here. So ambition is the wands, and then the seed is the ace, the organization is the 2, and so on. But for the 3 of Wands, it says what you say. When this card appears, I'm just literally reading out the words. When this card appears, it signifies a time of building and growth in your plans. Okay? So you're ill-advised to do that. Okay? You are ill-advised to build. The upright meaning is building, so we'll change that to build. Activate any new ambition, And oracular title, the one that Tolly and I came up with, is An Artist's Palette in an Empty Church. An Artist's Palette in an Empty Church. Okay, so that is what you are ill-advised to do, is to build something new. Okay, then we take the next card, which is going to be the what you are best advised to do, and that is the Ace of Cups. Now, before I say anything about that card, I'm going to look it up in the book here, and I'm going to just take the Ace of Cups, which is the seed of imagination. The seed of imagination. Okay, and upright, it means motion. So things are moving freely in this card, as in life. Fulfillment, go with the flow. Go with the flow. So that is what you are best advised to do. Okay, so nothing new, but to go with the flow. That seems to be what it is suggesting so far. And the oracular title for that, now here's where it starts to get interesting. If you recall the oracular title for the Three of Wands, that was An Artist's Palette in an Empty Church, whereas for the Ace of Wands, the oracular title is An Artist with a Peacock Feather in Their Hand. And that's weird, isn't it? Because the oracular titles vary from card to card. But for your reading, Evelyn, we've got An Artist's Palette in an Empty Church for what not to do, and an artist with a peacock feather in their hand in the other one, in what to do. So maybe that has a specific meaning for you, that the your next creative task should be as if you are holding a peacock feather, not as if you are in a church with an empty palette. And I think, to me, that would signify that you are drawing on your own personal resources, because I am thinking about the symbolism of the feather, which is writing, communication. I'm thinking about the symbolism of the peacock, which is about showing yourself, strutting your own stuff, and comparing that with the church symbolism, which is a solid building, which is establishment, beliefs, and so on. And in fact, I mean, Michael's original question in the Facebook group was, can you intuit about a red feather? So here we have a rule-based example, which is ironic, of two different sorts of art, and one involves a feather, a peacock feather, which is almost like writing about yourself or talking about yourself. So, Evelyn, I would say from that, you are not advised to do anything that is within an existing structure, but instead go with the flow and write your own experience in some way or another. Now, this particular method of three cards, yes, if you have knowledge of the symbolism of a peacock, because we could talk about alchemy, where the peacock is a very particular symbol for a transitionary stage. But you can see what we're doing here is reasoned. There is a reason for each of these things. And it's based on knowledge. In my case, it's based on the knowledge of alchemy and the Parvis Codonis, the peacock feather, the stage where the mixture becomes lots of different colours and then sort of graduates into the next stages of alchemy, the nigredo, albedo, and so on. But with Elizabeth, you're saying protection. So if you have knowledge of that symbolism, then that's what we're using here. We're not guessing anything. I'm not intuiting anything. It's all anything that anyone could do with some knowledge of the subject or with a book. Okay? And this is what I mean by a reasoned reading compared to an intuitive one. We're going to do an intuitive one in a moment. Okay? And we have an interesting question for that. Yes, eyes of a god. I think it's Juno is associated associated with the peacock, the goddess Juno. But all of these are knowledge-based. They're from reading, from experience, from classes, from all sorts of things. And more importantly, I can reason them. I can say to you, I have chosen to interpret it that way because of this. I'm choosing to interpret the church as a symbol of a being, of the establishment. Blogging on your art page very much, but from your own personal view, not what what you would expect people are expecting to hear, not what the church is empty, so you should just write with your peacock feather. Okay, now the safe bet, the third card that we do with this reading, so you're not to do this one, but you are to do this one. You could take a middle safe option with our third card, which is this card. Okay, so it's the Six of Pentacles. So the safe option, the middle option, if that's what you should definitely go for, this one is what you should definitely avoid, i.e. something new. You should go with the flow and keep doing something you're already doing. The safe option is the third middle card, which is the Six of Pentacles. And again, before I think about it or say anything, I'm going to refer to the book and look at the Six of Pentacles. And again, this is what I tend to do with my own readings. Unless I'm doing something hyper complex like an opening of the key, or if I'm doing something a bit abstract like my Philosopher's Stone readings that I'm doing every day at the moment and finding somewhere to put them in the room to reflect light in a particular way. If I'm doing a straight 3-card, 5-card, 10-card reading, I'll use this just to almost like get the facts, get the core essence of the card before I try and wheedle my way out of it to something else. So we look at the Six of Pentacles and we find the use of resource, okay, and the upright is resources. And what you say is this card in the resources you require. And the oracular title is a landscape garden, which is well maintained. So again, it's something that exists that you should, maybe this is some sort of federal assistance signed by, anyhow, so maybe it is that, but it's certainly resources. So I would say from using a book that has been derived from a lot of tarot readers' experience, then which way around are we going? Let's do it this way. So you should not set off with anything new. You should go with an existing flow of things, and you will find the resources that you need. Okay? So that is how one way anyway. I mean, there are lots of other ways of doing a knowledge-based reading, but that's sort of a good example, I think, of what I mean by a reasoned reading. And in my own readings, do I stop to check the book, as Marty is asking? For personally, I tend to look at the cards. I obviously will automatically think. I can't just not think about the cards, but then I will tend to double check in here and almost try not to memorize the meanings in here so that they're fresh each time. Michael's asking about Tarot Flip with Book T and other sources. We sort of did that in Tarot Time Traveler. We went back through different keywords for certain cards. Tali went back through every book on the Two of Pentacles all the way to Tarot Flip, so that she could almost trace a family tree of meanings, like who'd copied whose meanings from the past. Like Mathers did Waite copy Mathers, and Mathers sort of copied Etelia, and Etelia sort of, and so on. And all of those meanings, like Eden Gray is a vast source of readings. for one set, it's like a big family tree comes from Eden Gray's book, and then the other family tree then comes from Joan Bunning's Learn the Tarot page, because it's been abandoned for so long, and people just copy and paste out of it. So over the last 10 years, most of the book meanings have tended to be Joan Bunning's meanings, more than the sort of Eden Gray meanings, because the Eden Gray sort of timeline of meanings goes via Mary K. Greer, Rachel Pollack. They were influenced by Eden Gray, and then people who've read Pollack's books and Greer's books and so on sort of come out like this, and then it sort of then has another watershed with Joan Bunning's site, and then all of the blogs and more of the online sources, and then all of the authors who've used those online sources then copy those meanings out and down as well. And that's why this book is one of my favorite little books, and it's always by the side of my computer, because this we reverse engineered out of real tarot readers who were drawing on their experience of hundreds of thousands of readings to come up with a whole new set of keywords that has nothing to do with anything from books other than through their own experience. So these books, and it's why we called it Flip, Tarot Flip, Flip Tarot, flips it on its head by actually saying, what do real readers see that card as? Okay, so like Chinese whispers as well, that happens with some of these timelines, meaning that the meanings get further and further away from the original meanings, as we've seen in our Waite Smith sessions, where the Two of Pentacles becomes work-life balance far more than it does miscommunication. But again, all of these things go to their strange attractors, and there isn't a singular meaning for each card, and the meanings in here are generated from readers. But if we did Tarot Flip again in 20 or 30 years, we get another set of meanings, quite likely. Okay, so that is a reasoned reading. Now, we're going to do an intuitive one, and I'd like you to play along with me. This is a group activity, folks, so get ready for this. I'm going to give you a word in a second, and what we're going to do now is go into a slightly more abstract and surrealistic space by playing a little mental game. And what we're going to do is we're going to link two objects together and come up with a third object. Okay, we're going to link two objects together and come up with a third. I'll give you an example. I'm going to say a word. So if I said pen, and then I want you to, not for pen, this is just an example, I'm going to say another word in a moment. So if I was doing this as an example, I'd say pen, and then I'm going to look around and I see some flowers. And what I'm going to say is pen, link, flowers. Okay, I'm going to say out loud, pen, link, flowers. If you're doing this somewhere where you can't really talk out loud to yourself without being carted away, then just do it forcefully in your head. Object, link, and then look around, find another object, say it out loud, and link the two together. So pen, link, flowers, and then I'm going to, the word that comes to mind is stem, okay? Because I'm looking at the flowers that are on the other side of the computer. I can see their stems. I'm looking at the pen. It looks like a stem. So I'm going to say stem. Okay? And then we're going to carry on with that game. So that next word that you go with, which will be different for everyone, you then look around the room, you find another object, and then I'll go stem, link, chair. And then I will come up with another word that links those two together. And it doesn't matter how you link them together, okay? It doesn't have to make sense, just the first word that comes into mind, a bit like free association, but not one object, we're linking two objects together, and that's the difference. This is not free association, it sort of is, but it's the linking, it's the relationship that I want to generate, and you'll see why in a minute, okay? So, I'm going to say a word, and then I want you to do it with me. I'll do my own objects in this room, but I'll sort of count them as we go along. Okay, ready? Is everyone ready for this? So, there was heart, okay, as in a beating heart, about here. Okay, so I'm going to, I can see a wooden giraffe, so I'm going to say heart link giraffe, and the word that I get is heart link giraffe. Heart link giraffe is run. Okay, run. Okay, I want you to start off with the word heart though, so start off with the same word, but then find an object that you can see and link heart to that. Okay, you don't necessarily have to type it in, but you can if you want, that's great. So if you have heart links leaf or heart links dinosaur, in Sarah and John's case, that's great. And if Evan can maybe do heart link leg, and then come with a new word, okay? So Evelyn's done heart link heater warmth. Brilliant. Okay, that's actually a good way of typing it out if you want to keep track and provide something interesting for. So heart links cup, and what's the word that comes out of that for Adela? Okay, so I've done a heart link giraffe, and I've got the word run. Okay, and now I get second time. Okay, so if everyone's ready, I'll now do run and look for an object, and I've got water. Okay, so run link water, or fall, like waterfall. So run link water, waterfall. Okay, and you'll see this in a second. The only important thing I want you to do is just to get used to thinking in these terms. Okay. So I'm going to do another, and you just keep doing it. It doesn't matter if you do as many as me, more than me. Heart link balloon surgery, there's an interesting one. So I'm now going to do fall, which I got from run link water. That came up with fall, like waterfall, running water, waterfall. So I'm going to do fall link curtains. Fall link curtains. The first thing that comes to mind is Hannibal, because of these in Hannibal later, whichever film it was, where he pushes the poor guy out the window and strangles him on his own pieces. And for some reason, I got curtains and fall, and I just saw that scene, probably because I was talking about surgery. So okay, so I've got Hannibal. So Hannibal link rose. Hannibal link rose. I get elephants. Elephants link radiator. Elephants link radiator. Majesty. Majesty link button. Majesty link button. Honor. Honor link mouse. Scorpion. Scorpion link box. Catch. Catch link mat. Catch link mat. Baseball. Baseball link shell. Glove. Glove link rose. Nectar. Okay. Now, if everyone's doing that, what I now want you to do is I'm going to ask you to say lockdown link this object. Lockdown link this. What do you get? What's the word that comes up? Lockdown link. See, I get lockdown link bandage, and the word that comes up for me is coagulate. So lockdown link protection or lockdown link trapped. What word then comes up? For me, it's coagulate. So lockdown link boundaries. Fence, good. Quarantine, brilliant. Now, what I want you to do next is how do we deal with the lockdown, which is the question, if you recall, way back when Derek asked. So how do we deal with it? So let's choose deal, and then I'm just going to pick a random card. We're going to do exactly the same exercise. So deal, link, sword. Deal, link, sword. And for me, the word mastery comes up. So deal, link, then any object on this image, and then the next word that comes up after you link deal, link this. So I get deal, link, sword, and then I get mastery, my third word. Brilliance. Okay, so deal, link, something on this card comes with the word brilliance. Links or battle, yeah, fight. Victory, on point, like that one. Throat, interesting. Strength. Truth. Okay, so what I was trying to do there is generate a more intuitive state where we're having to come up with, there should be no real connection between deal and discard, because the word deal means to, deal with something, and this are grasp, deal, link, help, sacrifice. Okay, so these are all ways of dealing with the lockdown. It was that we got that card, and these were both pulled at random. This is a lockdown card, and this is for how to deal with it. So we can then intuit what that means for us without necessarily reading a book as we've just done. And I might sort of now know why I came up with mastery for this card, but it's not always the word that I'd use for this card at all. That was just the first word that came up. So dealer protection, that's nice. Okay, so can you see there we were doing a slightly different process than the sort of step-by-step reasoned method. And every tarot reading, a bit like our Sherwin B. Newland surgery that I mentioned at the beginning, goes through these phases. When you're doing a reading, and this is why I hate this, I'm an intuitive reader, or I read from books, or is it okay to read from books, or whatever it might be. No, they're the wrong questions, because when we actually do a reading, we thread ourselves between intuitive and knowledge-based and reasoned divinations, interpretations. And so we rise up those four levels between grunt work, mechanistically reading it, symbolically reading it, extending it out, and then having the inspiration at the top. So we have inspiration, intuition, symbolism, and then guesswork sort of down at the bottom. Okay, does that make sense? Um, so I guess that's really all I wanted to talk about today, to show how there is a slight difference, but a real overlap between these two styles of reading or approach of reading. I guess it's like pinpointing and bridging. You can do both consciously and unconsciously, like all of these things. After a while, it's like when I modeled long-term tarot readers, the skills that they were using were actually quite simple skills. It's just they got really good at those simple skills. And it's really important to take out those skills and teach them as methods, by giving people the skill to do it. Because to be honest, anyone can read a tarot card, but you can guess literally because you have some knowledge of women and lions and mountains and flowers. Okay, anyone can guess or intuit what a card means, particularly if it has the word strength at the bottom of it. Okay, and our job as a tarot reader is to be flexible, to have as wide range of approaches as possible, and to develop those, to practice them, to learn about them, to apply them, to test them out, so that we have a number of ways of approaching any reading. Okay, I hope that helps or makes sense, and we'll take at some of these other methods over the next few days. Storytelling, for example, is a skill set in itself. Storytelling is a skill set in itself. Wisdom comes with age, and application of understanding to experience, as we know from our Tree of Life, because wisdom, understanding, and knowledge are the literal names of Hokmah, Bina, and Darth up at the top of the Tree of Life. So if you look at the tarot cards between those tell you how you can develop wisdom, understanding, and knowledge by looking at the tarot cards on the Tree of Life between those things. That can be your homework until tomorrow if you want to look at that. As a clue, the card between wisdom and understanding is the Empress, which corresponds to Venus. And that Venus is the only symbol that covers all of the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life. So Venus and the Empress is really about unity. So that tells you the relationship between understanding and wisdom, that they are literally the same thing. Okay then, so tonight for our bedtime story, I'm going to read you the last of our invisible cities, because I've read a lot of these out. I want to leave a few for you to discover, and all of the interlocking scenes, because I've not been reading those from the book. And also it is the last city in the book that I want to read you. And then from tomorrow, we're going to be having as our bedtime stories favourite extracts from esoteric works, such as maybe a favourite scene from Dion Fortune, from her fiction books, something hilariously funny from Aleister Crowley, or something deeply wise from Dafri John. I'm going to read an extract over the next couple of weeks, if we are in lockdown for maybe another week or so. It's going to be an extract, a selection of gems from the lockdown, I call it, in honour of Gems from the Equinox, which was a collection of the best articles from the Equinox. Okay then, so this is the very last story in Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. And as we have gone through the cities, you may realise that we've also got more and more abstract as we've gone along. I should not tell you of Berenice, the unjust city, which crowns with triglyphs, abaci, metropes, the gears of its meat-grinding machines, The men assigned to polishing, when they raise their chins over the balustrades and contemplate the atria, stairways, porticos, feel even more imprisoned and short of stature. Instead, I should tell you of the hidden Berenice, the city of the just, handling makeshift materials in the shadowy rooms behind the shops and beneath the stairs, linking a network of wires and pipes and pulleys and pistons and counterweights that infiltrates like a climbing plant among the great cogged wheels. When they jam, a subdued ticking gives warning that a new precision mechanism is governing the city. Instead of describing to you the perfumed pools of the baths where the unjust of Berenice recline and weave their intrigues with rotund eloquence, and observe with a proprietary eye the rotted flesh of bathing odalisques, I should say to you how the just, always cautious to evade the spying sycophants and the Janissaries mass arrests, recognize one another by their way of speaking, especially their pronunciation of commas and parentheses. From their habits, which remain austere and innocent, avoiding complicated and nervous moods, from their sober and tasty cuisine, which evokes an ancient golden age, rice and celery soup, boiled beans, fried squash flowers. From these data, it is possible to deduce an image of the future Berenice, which will bring you closer to knowing the truth than any other information about the city as it is seen today. You must nonetheless bear in mind that what I'm about to say to you, in the seed of the city of the just, a malignant seed is hidden in its turn, the certainty and pride of being in the right and being more just than many others who call themselves more just than the just. This seed ferments in bitterness, rivalry, resentment, and the natural desire of revenge on the unjust is coloured by a yearning to be in their place and to act as they do. Another unjust city, though different from the first, is digging out its space within the double sheath of the unjust and just Berenice. Having said this, I do not wish your eyes to catch a distorted image. So I must draw your attention to an intrinsic quality of this unjust city, germinating secretly inside the secret just city. And this is the possible awakening, as if in an excited opening of windows of a later love for justice, not yet subjected to rules, capable of reassembling a city still more just than it ever was before, until it becomes the vessel of injustice. But if you peer deeper into this new germ of justice, you can discern a tiny spot that is spreading like the mounting tendency to impose what is just through what is unjust, and perhaps this is the germ of an immense metropolis. From my words, you will have reached the conclusion that the real Berenice is a temporal succession of different cities, alternately just and unjust. But what I wanted to warn you about is something else. All the future Berenices are already present in this instant, wrapped one within the other, confined, crammed, inextricable. The city of Berenice, the final city of Calvino's Invisible Cities, highly recommended to read, particularly the relationship between Marco Polo and Kublai Khan, who is getting Marco Polo to describe all of these cities. So thank you for your time and attention. We're at 50 minutes, and that's more than plenty for today. Tomorrow we're going to come around to some more tarot card reading methods, looking at majors, minor cards and court cards, and then we're going to start a series of gems from the lockdown, I think we'll call it. So if you've got any more questions, you pick up next week. That's it. I will all miss the cities, but I do return to them many times, as some of them cannot even be left. Okay, thanks a lot for your time and attention, and take care, look after yourselves, look after each other, and I was going to say something. Oh yes, blessings be upon the intense order of hermits. Bye for now.